mute your microphone when you're not. Questions, comments to the chat feature at any time throughout the discussion. And if you're comfortable, we ask that you turn on your camera so we can engage in that open dialogue and see each other.
To create the most ideal conditions for our book talk discussions, we've put together these list of virtual meeting norms that I wanted to take a moment to review. Again, try to be present by having your cameras turned on and eliminating any distractions that may take away from your ability to get the most out of our time together. And make sure to be prepared by having read the required reading and utilize the reading protocols that we have shared. Ensure that you share airtime when speaking to allow others' voice to be heard in the conversation, but also be sure to share your thinking. We have some amazing minds in this group and we want to be able to learn from one another. Actively listen and respect each other's ideas, and be sure to support your thinking by drawing connections back to the text. So to kick off our whole group discussion, I'd like us to reflect on this question. Why is an integrated approach to supporting students essential for enhancing student achievement? Now, you can use the Padlet link that's in your digital agenda, this bit.ly address that's listed, or scan the QR code, and it will take you to a Padlet. This Padlet is set up so participants can connect ideas with arrows in order to create a mind map. So you'll record your ideas and then move your entry around and add connections to others' ideas by clicking on the 3 dots and then select Connect to a Post. This is a new feature in Padlet, so we're going to see how it goes, and if it doesn't, oh well. So you'll have about 4 minutes to work independently before we will open up for a whole group discussion about our ideas. I'm going to pop over to our Padlet to see the ideas begin to come in. And if you notice that your entry is getting on top of another's idea, just click on it and you can move it to another place. As you're finishing up your ideas, you can take a minute to look over everyone else's thinking, see if there's any connections that you want to virtually connect as well as a visual. I'm thinking this would be a fun activity for students to be able to do within a group to show how their ideas align. Okay, let's go ahead and open up the conversation. So what are some big ideas you're taking away from this initial dive into why an integrated approach to supporting students is essential? Go ahead and unmute yourself to share your thinking.
I'll go ahead and start. Hey, Audrey, it's Stacy.
Hi.
I just want to say, I think I'm embarrassed to say for so long we've focused on academics and neglected the social emotional part. I don't think it was on anybody's part intentional, but I think we've all known forever that, behavior is affected and academics go hand in hand. However, I think really there's been a lot of good to come out in the last couple of years to really not overlook the social emotional, because the academics is not going to come unless social emotional needs are met. And so I think that is the premise behind the integrated approach, is the fact that until we merge those, we're not going to see student achievement increase.
And I'll just piggyback on that. With people, a lot of these comments say the whole child. We can't just meet part of the child or the part that we think needs to be met, that it's the whole child.
I definitely agree. I really liked the quote on page 30. It was actually a big chunk, but I guess Cook and colleagues looked at the effects of reading-only interventions and then behavior-only interventions, and then both types of interventions in 2012. And in the book, it says, although each intervention was somewhat effective overall, and the combined intervention was the most effective, the reading-only intervention was ineffective for students with an attention-maintained problem behavior, and the behavior-only intervention was ineffective for students with escape-maintained problem behaviors. And so these results provide further evidence that the function of the problem behavior is a critical variable to use when designing effective academic and behavior support plans, as well as a strong explanation for why academic interventions are only sometimes effective in reducing problem behavior. And it's just making me realize, even beyond the behavior piece, we have to be thinking about what's the function of it. Are they trying to escape something? Are they trying to get attention for it? And how does that align with, their reading challenges as well? It's definitely a dual process. Any other ideas?
So one thing I thought about, Audrey, is, going back to teaching the whole child. And so it makes me think about the importance of really getting to know the child, because I'm a firm believer in that it's hard for you to teach me if you really don't know me. Mm-hmm. And so that's just something I believe. And so it's so important that we have that integrated approach when it comes to teaching students.
Right. That's making me think of that wonderful book that you shared. If my teacher knew, I believe that's the name of it.
If she only knew.
If she only knew, yes. Okay.
Okay, wow. I really love how we are able to think collectively around this topic. Just think about the impact our growing knowledge could have on students in South Carolina. In preparation for today's meeting, you should have read chapter 2 in our book and utilized the CASH protocol to reflect on your learning. We will now have 15 minutes to utilize the CASH protocol when discussing our reading with a group of colleagues in a breakout room. CASH stands for cognitive, what did you learn? Affective, what did it make you feel? Surprise, what were you surprised by? And help, what did you have questions about now? This week, we really encourage you to make connections to each other's ideas while in the breakout rooms and conversations. So, similar to our last meeting, please sign up for a breakout room. The link for the sign-up sheets can be found on your digital agenda. Once you have added your name to the document, click on the link at the bottom of the group's column. We are having you sign up again so that you have an opportunity to work with others in our group that you may not have spoken with during our first meeting. This time we are asking that each group identifies a facilitator who will pace the discussion, a timekeeper who will ensure that everyone returns to the whole group on time, and a speaker who will share their thoughts, their group's highlights, connections, and questions as we return. At, let's see, it's 3:45 right now. So at 4 o'clock, please return to the main room. Actually, I'm sorry, 4:05. Remember, you can do this by clicking leave in the breakout room and then resume for the MTSS book study. Any questions before we head to the breakout room?
Where do we find this form with the link? Is it on the digital agenda?
Yes, it's on the
Okay,
digital
sorry.
agenda. That's okay. All right, hearing none, you can go ahead and sign up under a breakout room and then click the link below and it will take you into your breakout room. Monica or Virginia, can we help you guys get to a room or? Oh, Monica, I think you're on mute. And Karen, can I help you get to a room?
I didn't see the link to join.
Were you able to find the document where you signed up?
Okay, I think. Okay.
And then at the bottom of the column, yep.
Okay. I am not on the list.
You are signing up yourself for whichever one you want to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That way, if you wanted to talk with other people, you didn't have to be in the same group.
Okay. Okay. I guess I'm in the right. No.
All right, they are coming back. All right, Audrey, are we ready? Oh, it looks like she's still in one of the rooms. One of the facilitators want to pop in and remind the room that's still open to come back. Hey, Bettina. Hey, Ramona. Can somebody just pop over and ask and remind Audrey time's up?
Doing it now.
Thank you, hon. There's Ricky. Hey, Ricky. Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Room number 1 just got back in here.
Perfect, perfect. All righty. I see 3 more people that are on hold. All right, there they go, popping back in.
Okay.
All right, we're ready to rock and roll.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again and we'll get going.
Perfect. So let's take a few minutes and have a shared discussion using the 3-2-1 discussion protocol. Speakers, now is your time to shine. Can we have 3 speakers share a highlight from your discussion? Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
So one of our highlights in our discussion was the effect of bullying on students and how it links to their math and reading low achievement.
Thank you.
One of our highlights in our group was noticing the lack of emphasis on the socioeconomic status of the students. It really relied a lot on just their academics and their behavioral. And then someone noted that, I think it was Audrey, that these are things in our what we can affect in our classrooms. And so, you know, other things that we can't really fix, you know, weren't as important, or maybe this just that it's not a, that it wasn't noted as being an issue, or it was, you know, it's happening across the board no matter what type of situation the student is coming from home.
Thank you. One more speaker to share a highlight.
Our group really talked about the importance of social emotional learning as part of Tier 1 instruction, how important that is now. And we talked about the fact that it's really just coming to the forefront. And we kind of had a little conversation about where has it been, because it's always been so important. And we're just glad to see that it's now coming to the forefront in education.
Great, thank you so much. Now we'd love to have two of our speakers share a connection their group had while participating in the breakout room discussion.
I don't know if this is necessarily a connection, but we all had the same feelings. Just frustration, wanting to hurry up and get these problems fixed now that we, you know, are aware of them, and then also feeling a sense of responsibility to all students. And someone commented they felt like all students need some type of intervention one way or the other, and I agree with that as well.
Beautiful, thank you. All right, one more person.
So our room reflected about how they reflected to with their classrooms. If we kind of had some of the information that we had today, how we could have changed some of those interventions or addressed some of those behaviors that we noticed in the classrooms, if we would have, and how we could have addressed some stuff differently with regards to those behaviors, and if we could have gotten to the root cause.
Thank you. All right. Finally, we will take one question at this time. Was there a group that had a question? Go ahead and unmute your mic at this time.
So So our question was, how do we determine that root cause of the behavior? Is it withdrawal? Because is it what's causing them to withdraw? What's causing them to act out? How do we determine that root cause? And because we addressed how some of the when you have the behavior in your classroom, you don't really have, you know, kids are receiving discipline referrals, but it doesn't dive deep down into why that's happening. So what measure can we utilize in order to find those root causes, and so we can address them through intervention, and, you know, ultimately help that child with their academics and be more successful with their behavior.
Great
right.
question.
I'm thinking about on page 29, it talks about at the bottom about a functional behavior assessment, an FBA. So I'm wondering if there's a guidance counselor or a psychologist that has a FBA at the school that is accessible to teachers. Something simple, and I'm gonna have to dive deeper too to see if there's a resource that's linked here in the book that maybe can be used or accessed. So any other thoughts?
To add on to what Audrey said, I was hoping that that our question would be brought to the group. As a literacy specialist, I think it was 2 years ago, and I can't remember the name of the problem solving structure, but the gist of it was taking a team-based approach where you not only named the behavior that you were seeing, but you looked at factors such as when that behavior was occurring, so that you would be able to make those causal links and create a hypothesis and a plan of action to address it, to kind of test it. So it really used a research-based, like kid watching, basically, to help to determine exactly what the root cause is. It's kind of tedious, but when you create a structure, then it helps you when you bring that that problem or issue to a group to try to pin down what the root cause is. And I'm going to remember the name of that procedure and share it with you, Mary.
Well, I just looked up FBA, or the functional behavior assessment, in the index, and it was sharing some various pages, but page 49 has a chart that you basically use, kind of like you were saying, Ramona, around thinking through, is this a behavior to avoid or escape tasks, to obtain or to retain tangible objects. So, and then thinking around the academic assessment as well. And that's in chapter 3. So that's our next chapter coming up. So,
perfect.
Yeah, and I was just going to comment, I know our psychologists will pull out, the functional behavioral assessment when a student has already been referred, but at that point, the behavior has gone on for way too long. And so I feel like there needs to be a simpler approach, like you said, one that teachers can use on their own. And one that we've had in the past was the ABC form, the antecedent, the behavior, the consequence. I can't remember exactly if that's correct, but it was giving teachers the opportunity to, like you said, kid watch, to see, can I make a connection between what's happening in the classroom to what led to this behavior. But I feel like sometimes we let the behavior go on for way too long before we stop to try and identify what's causing it.
Mm-hmm. Good conversation, group.
Yes.
All right, so during our last meeting, we introduced you to the SAM, which is the self-assessment of MTSS implementation, and asked you and your school level MTSS team to reflect on domain 1, which is leadership. So we hope that you found it beneficial to go through the process and that you were able to develop goals and next steps for enhancing the leadership domain. As a reminder, the SAM 2.0 instrument is used to measure school level SEMTSS implementation. Quality implementation of SEMTSS is associated with increased likelihood of instruction and interventions leading to successful student outcomes. Therefore, it is important for schools to monitor not only student outcomes, but also how assessments, instruction, interventions, and database problem solving are put into place. For example, with the fidelity which these elements are implemented. So in chapter 2, we identified a connection to domain 2 of the SAM, which is building capacity and infrastructure for implementation. Now that we've had a chance to discuss our ideas about the integration of MTSS, let's return to the Padlet from the start of the session. I want you to think about, what do you want to add and what do you want to revise? Take a moment and add something or revise your thinking. So this image comes from page 23, and it is a clear visual and another reason why an integrated model is an advantage to students. As you can see, there are many pathways, both behavior and academic challenges that lead to a combined academic and behavior challenge. In order to meet the needs of our students, we must ensure that they are meeting both areas of need in our support. On page 23, it states, by thinking about classroom management and classroom instruction as significant parts of the same process, teaching is likely to be clearer, more focused and balanced, more sustaining, and more enriching for both teachers and students over the course of the school year. Adopting an integrated MTSS model can provide synergistic effects that can make our work better across both academics and behavior. So this type of thinking and systematic implementation, it does not happen automatically. It requires intentional focus on building the capacity and infrastructure for implementation. And I saw where someone added that to the Padlet. So let's look specifically at item number 9 on the SAM. The leadership team facilitates professional development and coaching for all staff on multi-tiered instruction and intervention relative to their job roles and responsibilities. I want you to take a moment to just review the indicators across the rubric. I want you to think about, where do you identify your school or district? Think about what could be some next steps for you. And think about these questions as you're reading and review the SAM in the next couple of weeks. So as a reminder, the South Carolina Department of Education website has on-demand modules to support building and district level conversations about how to build capacity and an infrastructure of the SC MTSS framework. Please be sure to check them out. We also identified a connection to this chapter and domain 3, which is communication and collaboration. Whole school initiatives require collaboration across general education, special education, administration, and school and district level support staff. So I would like for you to unmute yourself, or in the chat if you could, just let's talk about these 2 questions. The first one, how do you integrate academic and behavior conversations in your MTSS process? So how do you integrate the academic and behavior conversations in your MTSS process? And also think about, how are all stakeholders included in these conversations? So you can unmute or you can add them to the chat.
I'm wondering the same question. I'm hoping somebody will answer it, because I'm working with the school that we're trying to figure this part out. So please speak up, people.
All right, I see where someone says that the integration of these ideas, oh, I lost it. is new to their school. They do not have a system in place. Someone else, they don't feel like they're having these conversations until they get to the student interventions, team level, when the student has been referred. Using behavior data as part of the data analysis process.
Audrey used the word earlier, transparent, and I believe in full transparency. This is an area of growth for our district, just the MTSS process in general, and I actually pretty much laid it out that we needed her help with this. We've been working to strengthen Tier 1, but I think even getting to the point of integrating academic and behavior together is still a challenge for us.
So a question that I would ask, is there a streamlined process for managing behavior? So the first thing that comes to mind is, like, do all teachers use something like Class Dojo to track behavior, or some other, just is there a streamlined process for tracking behavior?
And also, I'm thinking around schools, is there a universal core behavior plan, so that this is just what we do at our school and everybody is similar, so that kids know this is how our school works versus this is how this classroom works, this is how this classroom works, so on.
Well, and I'm thinking too, because Dojo, parents can get that, can't they? Because, you know, that's one of the things I'm trying to work with the school to think about, how to not only communicate class in the building wise, but letting parents know the good too, not just the bad. They need to get the yays.
Exactly. Someone put through PBIS. My question about that is, when we're thinking about integrating RTI and PBIS, how could you marry the two?
Could you repeat the question again, please?
I was saying, in terms of thinking about PBIS and RTI, the whole purpose of MTSS is integrating the two. So thinking about how do you do that so that that's a regular part of your data conversations?
Well, I guess the answer would be how we track our discipline through ABE scholarship, where you have various discipline issues, and PBIS looks different in our district based on the grade level. It's more intrinsic in elementary and middle school, and it becomes, I guess, more sophisticated amongst our high school students, because high school students don't really like the Paul Buck store, or middle school students really don't like the Paul Buck store. But at our middle school, we have other like a cafe. We have other elements to enforce or to get the direct behavior. So I guess to answer your question, tracking the behavior through our discipline system of ABE.
And what a great way then to be able to see, like, whole school behaviors, and are there certain things, if you're able to break it down by, you know, type of behavior and grade level, and maybe even specific to classroom. And then I guess somebody put in the chat that that's a piece of data that we analyze during when we're discussing students, not just their academics, but both. Super ideas.
Was that a question?
No, I was just saying,
Oh,
great idea.
oh,
Great ideas.
Yeah, and when I think about integrating the two, like RTI and PBIS, when you say marrying the two, I mostly just think of each one happening simultaneously. You know, you have your
Yes.
PBIS system where you're teaching what you expect as far as behavior wise, and you're tracking your data. Then you have your RTI system, which is looking at your academic data and tracking kids in that specific way. You know, when you do recognize issues, that's when the two come together and you can see a more clear picture of the whole child. So not necessarily having to stress about thinking I'm running these two different things and I have to put them together and integrate them, but understanding one is behavior, one is academics, and yes, they come together when I'm looking at the child. Does that make
Well
sense?
said, Jennifer.
Yes.
Well said. Exactly.
Can
That's
you
the
record
idea.
that for us? If we will just have that on replay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. Great discussion.
Absolutely. So the South Carolina Department of Education website also includes a module to support school and district level conversations about the importance of communication and collaboration under the South Carolina MTSS framework. Again, be sure to check that out. Within your school MTSS team, which would include your administrator, general and special education teachers, content area experts, your instructional support staff, and student support personnel, we encourage you to use the time between now and our next book study to complete the SAM rubric for Domain 2 and 3. As it supports the learning we did in Chapter 2, specifically regarding building capacity and infrastructure for implementation and communication and collaboration. So if you are working with a literacy specialist this year, please be sure to include them in your process. As we continue through our book study, we will return to the SAM for self-reflection and goal setting. Even if you've completed the SAM in the past, it will be important to return to it now to determine your next steps.
Okay, so just like last book talk session, let's now take a moment to reflect on the what and so what about the information that was presented in Chapter 2 and the discussions that we've had this week during our book talk session. Also, let's think about the now what. Now, what will you do in response to today's book study and the conversations we've had? So what actionable steps can you take to enhance your MTSS in your school or district? At this time, take out 3 Post-it notes or draw 3 boxes on your piece of paper, just like last time, and write 1 actionable step on each of the 3 Post-it notes. So for example, an actionable step I could take is collaborate with my school's MTSS team to complete the SAM tool domains 3, 2, and 3. So right now, write down your 3 actionable steps and decide which step you will do first. And using the chat box, be sure to share 1 or a few of your actionable steps with our group. And I'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes to write down your actionable steps and to share 1 in the chat box. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes, so now head over to the chat box and jot one or a few of your actual steps. It looks like Stacy said that she wants to collaborate with Audrey and then both of her PLP schools in the district to read and discuss chapter 2. And Kelly, it looks like she wants to share some of the research presented in this chapter with the teachers. Yeah, it was powerful research. Go ahead and take maybe another minute to add in your actionable step.
Stacy, let's connect around thinking through that and scheduling when that might happen. I'd love to.
I would love that. I mean, I immediately called and said, I need y'all to read this chapter, and they're interested. It's timely. It's timely.
Okay, some others. I'd like to share the cognitive pathways. Yes. With the school's MTSS team to ensure we're meeting the students' academic and behavior needs. Use the SAM domains 2 and 3. Yeah, more sharing the research.
And I want to note that I also want to do the SAM in addition to just reading the chapter, but I think it sets the tone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Stacy, it's the why, right? The purpose. That's how I felt when I read it. Okay, more sharing chapter 2 with my team. Yes. Wonderful. So really, there's some similarities between our action steps, and we hope that you utilize these action steps over this next 2-week period while we're reading chapter 3, and we're also, making differences within our school. So here are a few reminders before we end today. For our next book study session, it's on November 19th. We will be reading chapter 3 and using a new protocol. It's called Triangle, Circle, Square to guide our breakout room discussions. So in a few moments, I will provide you a preview to that protocol. And then also as a reminder, complete domains number 2 and number 3 of the SAM tool. And we'd also like to remind you of an additional opportunity to participate on Voxer in discussions that are happening throughout this book study. And if you'd like to participate in Voxer, you can sign up on that Google form. We've already started some discussions on Voxer, so you can feel free to jump right in and join us if you'd like to. As you read chapter 3 to prepare for our next session, use the triangle, circle, square protocol to record your learning. For the triangle, you will record 3 important points from the chapter. For the circle, as you read, think about a wondering or something rolling around in your head based on the information. For the square, think about the information presented in the chapter that squares or aligns to your current beliefs. And again, we will use this protocol to guide our breakout room discussions. And we have a link to the triangle, circle, and square protocol on your digital agenda for easy access.
Okay, as we wrap up, we ask that you take about 5 minutes to complete the exit ticket for today's session. We thank you so much for the feedback that we got from last session. And so we'd love to hear ideas about today and moving forward. The link is located at the top of your digital agenda or facilitator's guide. And the exit ticket is your attendance and participants who have attended all the sessions, as documented by the exit ticket, will receive the 12 renewal credits at the end of the study. So be sure that you fill that out. And again, we just want to thank you for being part of our conversation today. We hope that you've enjoyed the conversation, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
It was great. Thanks, y'all, for facilitating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where did y'all say the exit ticket is? I was looking